Charles Friedrich Gerhardt, better known as Buck Jones, was born in Vincennes, Indiana on December 12, 1891. When he was just 16 years old, he joined the army and fought in the Philippines with Troop G of the 6th Cavalry Regiment. Wounded during the Moro Rebellion, Jones was honorably discharged a year later. Like Tom Mix, Jones got his start in entertainment at the Miller Brothers 101 Ranch, where he met his future wife, Odile Dell Osborne. Jones' first job in the movie industry was for Universal Pictures, where he worked as a stuntman for a mere $5 a day. His stay there was short-lived, and Jones quickly moved to Canyon Pictures, where he doubled for Western star Franklin Farnham, and later found work as a stuntman for the Fox Film Corporation, making $40 a week. This led to his first starring role, The Last Straw, released in 1920, where he was billed as Charles Jones. By 1925, he had appeared in more than 160 films, and was among the most successful and highly paid Western stars. It was at this time that he adopted the screen name of Buck Jones, and acquired his famous white steed, Silver. Riding on this success, Jones formed his own production company in 1928, and organized his own Wild West show in 1929. Both ventures ended in economic failure, and between this and the Great Depression, Jones was forced to file for bankruptcy. He returned to Western Pictures in 1930, when he signed a contract with producer Sol Lesser, for whom he made 8 westerns, all released through the newly reorganized studio Columbia Pictures. After this, Jones signed a contract with Columbia, and his salary went up from $300 to $500 a week. Jones made another 21 movies for Columbia, and, by 1934, had become the top Western star, surpassing his former peak in the silent era. That same year, he formed his own production company, Buck Jones Productions, and moved on to Universal, who doubled his salary. Over the next 4 years, Jones would star in 22 films and 4 serials for Universal.
Hey! Don't get on that caballo.
In 1937, Buck left Universal over a contract dispute. It was the same year that he officially changed his legal name to Charles Buck Jones. By this time, the actor was pushing 50 years old, and the industry was starting to change. The singing cowboy craze had begun with the release of The Phantom Empire with Gene Autry, and old-timers like Buck were no longer box office draws. Jones would star in an assortment of films for different studios over the next 4 years, and he even dabbled in radio with the short-lived program Hoofbeats.
Howdy, folks. You'll be mighty glad to hear, I reckon, that the makers of Grape Nuts Flakes, that's America's most famous cereal in flake form, are going to bring you America's most famous cowboy. Hard-riding, hard-hitting, hard-to-beat, everybody's favorite, Buck Jones.
Though not as popular as he once was, the actor was in a much more financially stable situation than he had been at the end of the 1920s. The 1940s saw a boost in Jones' career when he signed a deal with Monogram Pictures to star in their Rough Riders series, alongside fellow Western veterans Tim McCoy and Raymond Hatton. 8 of these films were produced before McCoy left for the Army in 1941. In 1942, Jones would star in his last Western, Dawn on the Great Divide, again with Raymond Hatton. That same year, on November 28th, the actor, on a war bond selling tour, would die from injuries sustained during the Coconut Grove nightclub fire in Boston. Some newspapers reported that he successfully escaped the fire, only to go back into the burning building to try and save others. But evidence suggests that Jones was trapped behind a railing and unable to escape.